Aston Martin's bad form in Spain shocked fans of the team in green. The Spanish Grand Prix stands were packed with fans baying to celebrate Fernando Alonso's first podium at his home race since he won the race back in 2013. The team are ready to respond though, and they've made a big announcement about their plans for the Canadian Grand Prix. Today we'll fill you in on how the team are responding to Alonso's demands for improvements, and what it is they need to do to fix the problems that were evident in Spain. So don't go anywhere. The Silverstone-based team endured a challenging Spanish GP last weekend, as Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll ended up finishing behind both Mercedes and Ferrari in the fight to be Red Bull's closest challenger. With its rivals having introduced major upgrades to their car over the past two races, Aston Martin's lack of performance could suggest that it's been overtaken in pace terms, as it has been slow itself to introduce updates. That situation comes after Alonso urged his squad to step up its introduction of upgrades if it was to maintain its position in regularly fighting for podiums. Aston bought its first upgrade package for the AMR23 to Monaco instead of the cancelled Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, pushing back the introduction of new parts. For the Principality race, Aston sported a revised suspension setup and tweaked brake ducts to improve airflow over the rest of the car, and increased brake efficiency and cooling. A week later in Spain, the team had changes to the front and rear wing and nose cone. While acknowledging that Aston is bringing updates on a regular basis, Alonso cited recent major changes from Ferrari, Mercedes and Red Bull as a warning that his team had to keep pace. "Yeah, we have some new parts," said Alonso about the changes in Spain. "But we're bringing always new parts to the car. So yeah, I'm happy with how we are approaching every race. There is something always new in our car. We still need to speed up things. I think Ferrari is already 2 flaws into this season. Mercedes was obviously a completely new car in Monaco, and more upgrades here. Red Bull had a Baku package, and another one here. So we understand that we're not in that position yet." Team principal Mike Crack says Alonso is right to put pressure on the team to deliver more, but insists plans are in place for improvements to come. "He is right to ask us and push us for that," said Crack. "There will be something coming in Canada. It will be a step." While Mercedes and Ferrari are both convinced they've moved forward in terms of form to change the competitive order in F1, Aston Martin thinks it is premature to think that the order has changed behind Red Bull. Mike Crack cites the fact that while Aston Martin certainly struggled in the opening stint in Barcelona on soft tyres, things seemed to stabilise when everyone switched to harder compounds later in the race. We'll come back to Aston's struggles in Spain shortly, but let's first talk about what they could upgrade in Canada. Aston Martin's big problem in Spain was their tyre wear. The Spanish Grand Prix was particularly punishing to teams' front tyres. Ferrari struggled with the same problem, and Charles Leclerc was unable to recover into the points during the race. Haas were another team that really struggled, and Nico Hülkenberg fell from 8th on the grid to 15th in a rather weak display from Formula One's most beloved underdog. The changes to the last section of the track made the course very punishing for the front tyres, and those with a lack of front downforce felt the effect. A lack of front downforce causes the front tyres to lose traction on the surface of the track. They then slide when they're put under load, which causes the tyres to wear much quicker than they would normally. A layman's remedy for this is to just add more surface area to the front wing, but I'm sure Aston Martin will come up with something much more nuanced with that. Aston are also struggling with a car that produces too much drag, so reducing the downforce produced by the rear end could improve the top speed while balancing out the car's downforce to help the front tyre wear. In Spain, Aston Martin had a new rear wing to help with their drag, but we didn't get to see if it worked or not due to the front tyre issues. They are the problems the team needs to solve, and it'll be interesting to see if they can do it in Canada. Looking ahead, Alonso revealed that the upgrades being introduced for the Canadian GP and Silverstone were vital to stay ahead of other teams in the development race. Alonso believes that if Aston Martin brings upgrades, they could be on par with Lewis Hamilton and have an improved chance at winning a race this season. The Spanish driver expressed his determination, stating, "I think it's a race, and in Canada, we crushed them." It is Lewis Hamilton, George Russell and the Mercedes team that Aston Martin needs to worry about, on the evidence of the Spanish Grand Prix. Behind runaway race winner Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton led teammate George Russell to bag a double podium for Mercedes to jump Aston Martin in the constructors' standings. since the AMR23 has often been the second quickest machine behind the Red Bull RB19 throughout the early races this season. The Silverstone squad was surprised to find itself adrift of the rocket ship Silver Arrows, while also struggling to better Ferrari's pace. Stroll said, "Mercedes had a rocket ship. I'm not sure where they found that pace. I was expecting us to be the strongest car after Red Bull. I expected that after all the races this year. We just didn't have it. We had a lot of degradation and were struggling with our pace compared to Merc, Ferrari. Red Bull is in another league. We just didn't have the upper hand." While the removal of the final chicane in Barcelona was well received by drivers, it did take away a slow speed section and major acceleration zone, areas where the AMR23 has excelled. Also, with the faster final corner increasing speeds on the main straight, Aston Martin were also towards the lower reaches of the speed traps, with its package that has at times proved draggy. However, Stroll placed the blame for the competitive slip, compared to Mercedes, squarely on the management of the Pirelli tyres. Asked for an explanation of the problems, he said, "Just deg. Mercedes just looked after their tyres really well. It felt like at the beginning of the first stint, when we were in third after passing Hamilton on lap 1, while third starting Lando Norris dropped after contact. I was comfortably just keeping that gap to Carlos Sainz of Ferrari, even pulling away from Lewis a little bit. But then, like 5 laps into the race, they just didn't have any deg, and I just felt the tyres dropping off. They were pushing on. Even looking at Russell's race, I think they were able to do that all race. They seem to have a really good car today." Mercedes' improvements in Spain are still a bit of a grey area. Did they actually improve their car? Or was it just a one-off race where the track suited their car? We can't answer that question yet. We'll have to wait a few races to really understand whether Mercedes' changes have worked or not. Aston Martin team principal Mike Crack believes that the order in Spain did not directly reflect the pace of the top teams, as Alonso's chances in the race were heavily compromised by a runoff in the Q1 qualifying that damaged his floor and left him unable to challenge for the front row. Speaking about if he felt Barcelona had shown where the current teams line up in pace terms, Crack said, "I think it is too early or too easy to say that, because we've not seen the full picture in qualifying. It's something that is similar to how it is in the beginning of the year, when we say we need 3 races to see where we are really. Now, it could well be that the others have made a bigger step, but our early analysis so far doesn't reflect that." Aston Martin have been patient with their upgrades so far this season, while Mercedes have implemented one huge upgrade package. The Silver Arrows will need to assess the effect of their upgrades, compile data, and consider how to use the rest of their development budget this season, while Aston Martin can just carry on upgrading as they have. It wouldn't be a surprise if over the next few races, Aston Martin shows that they haven't taken a step back, and instead bring upgrades that not only put them back in front of Mercedes, but also close the gap to Red Bull. I can't wait for the Canadian Grand Prix, partly because it is one of my favourite tracks on the calendar, but also because the development race this season is now well and truly underway, and Canada will be a big battleground. Do you think Aston Martin can get back ahead of Mercedes? Or will the team disappoint Alonso with ineffective upgrades? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.